welcome you to this meeting, the final in this term of the Economic Development Communications Committee. Welcome those present. Note that we have a quorum. We have Councillor Dutta on screen, and we're missing Dr. Simpson at this point. However, we have enough to proceed. No need to call anybody. Confirmation of the minutes of this committee on Thursday, 1 September 2022.
Move.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko. I'll put that to the remainder of the meeting. All in favour? Thank you. The consideration of supplementary items, that are none. Indication of pecuniary and conflicts of interest on the open. There being none. Transfer of agenda items. There is none. I'll move to the first substantive item, the City Activation Campaign update. And first of all, seek from Ms Allen a briefing or a brief introduction to the item.
Thank you, Chair. So the City Economy team has been working on a business activation campaign that we're looking to roll out, I think, late October and through into November. This is being looked at in response to a range of issues to do with a number of people still continuing to work from home, to address a rise in online shopping. The intent of the campaign is to essentially attract people into the city and our retail precincts. The campaign, as you'll see from the briefing that's attached, is going with the tagline, "Revive Your 9 to 5. It's based on activating people who are in the city and encouraging them to get out and about at their lunch times and after work. So we're looking to encourage people into retail precincts and also hospitality precincts after work. As you will see, there's a number of components to the campaign. So there is the promotional campaign under the Revive Your 9 to 5 tagline. But there are also a range of business support programs that we're putting in place to provide support around redesigning of shop fronts, both for attractiveness and amenity, and also potentially to address problems related to security, and a follow-up funding program for businesses to implement the recommendations of those assessments. The other element of the campaign is related to leveraging the city's events program that happens throughout October and November, and essentially through the campaign driving people to the precincts where the events are happening and supporting that activity with parking discounts and also potentially free or reduced cost e-scooter travel. So happy to take questions or provide any more information that the committee might wish.
Thank you. I'll open the item. Councillor Fox.
Yeah, anything to do with public transport other than the e-scooters? So are we partnering with Metro, or are we able to offer any shuttle bus services or anything? For
Not at this stage, no. We're somewhat limited in the time frame we've had for planning this campaign. There's a fair amount that we're hoping to learn through this program, and absolutely for future iterations there are a range of partners that we would talk to, including Metro. What I should have I guess also said is that we've recently purchased access to a data source called SpendMap, which will allow us to skim the purchasing information from the banking system. So we'll actually be able to have a look at the impact of these different interventions that we're making and see if we are able to increase expenditure as a result of what we're doing.
Is that that data skimming, is that something that we've got access to ongoing?
Yes, we do. Just for the duration? No, we've purchased it on an ongoing basis, and we've also purchased 2019 retail figures to allow us to compare ourselves to performance pre-COVID.
Okay. I'd be really interested to see some of that data if we can.
Yeah, happy to bring a briefing on that information to a future meeting.
Councillor Dutta.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I just have a few observations that I would like to make. Firstly, with regards to the research, what was the methodology used, the sample, etc., and would you be able to give us some statistics with regards to this empirical research?
So, Councillor, I'm assuming that you're referring to the changes that are happening in the city?
Yeah, the research by Village Well and Spend data indicated. So I want to know how was this research done by the Village Well and the sample, because I want to know the statistics behind this.
Sure. The Village Well research is actually national research, as I understand it. I might ask Nick just to provide a little bit more context to that.
Sure. Yes. So Jackie's right. It is national data. So it's trend data over a period of around about 2.5 years. So really for the period of I guess COVID-19, if you like, to look at the trends around what's happening in the different business districts of major cities around the country. And it looks at the demographics of who's going into the city, how long they spend in the city, and the sorts of general activities that they're taking. So in a nutshell, what that research has indicated is that it's predominantly that the issues that a lot of retailers are facing is around the perception of safety and security, which is seen to be a barrier to perhaps spending more time in the city and entering bricks and mortar retail. And that's supported by the increase in online expenditure that we're seeing nationally. And it also suggests a range of interventions that can be used that in their experience is providing encouragement to the older cohort of consumers to get them back into the city. And so this campaign leverages those findings. And we've then also looked at some of the local spend data over the course of the last 2 years, so since 2019, to sort of augment that information.
And I guess what we've seen in that spend data is there is an increase in spend on online purchasing. So part of what we're trying to do through this program is to work with our retailers to have them understand this change in consumer dynamics, help them, kind of future iterations of work will look to assist them around their online presence, but in regard to this campaign, we're wanting to work with them to have them make their bricks and mortar retail experience more attractive and leverage some of our events and activations to get people into our retail precincts.
Thank you so much. Just that the sound is not very clear, so I may have missed some of the things, but not to worry. The other observation I make is in regards to the e-scooters and the incentive. Now I understand it's coming back for review. Will this in any way encourage e-scooters to be used more and therefore creating more problems in the community for pedestrians?
Well, it's certainly not going to increase the number of e-scooters on the streets. I mean, Nick, can you speak a bit more to the detail of that?
No, look, it won't. It's not intended to increase the number of e-scooters, so the number of scooters would stay the same. The rationale behind that is that we know that a lot of the traffic, often when things are on around the CBD, is generated through local traffic. So in other words, vehicles that are moving around the city, going from point A to point B within the main city area. So whilst we want to activate particular areas of the city, what we don't want to do is cause unnecessary congestion. So the e-scooters option is just another mechanism to try and reduce that and encourage shoppers to consider other forms of transport. So it's not the only avenue, but it is one of a range of avenues that we wanted to try and encourage.
And the final observation I'm making here is in regards to the grants. Will the grants also equally be distributed to non-cafes or eating places? Because there has been a tendency to focus more on cafes and restaurants.
Yeah, so look, that's a...
Go
do
for
you
it.
want to...
Yeah.
But that's an interesting question, so the intent of this campaign is to, I guess, mobilise a call to action through a number of images that are presented throughout the campaign. So what is presented in the documentation today is really just an example, a creative example of what that looks like. The process that we're going through at the moment is to develop a library of images that will present options for consumers as a call to action, but across a number of different business types. So it's not intended to focus, for instance, solely on food and beverage. So it will also encourage retail, and we will look at a range of images that actually works across a number of different types of retail outlets, but without obviously noting any one business in particular. And it will then also cover a range of food and beverage outlets as well. So it's to ultimately encourage people that are already in the CBD, that are office workers, to get out at lunchtime and get away from your desk and to do something after work, catch up with friends and experience what is essentially a bunch of unique offerings that are available in the city.
Okay. Is that all, Councillor Dyer? Thank you. Alderman Zuko.
Sorry. Clubs across this country, small clubs like tennis clubs, sporting clubs, all clubs around this country, struggling. Really struggling badly. Except for one, the Australian Tennis Club North Hobart. Because the whole concept is that you've got a small group of people, you've got to expand yourself outside of that small group of people. You've already got people in the city, no problem. Let's market that. That's not a problem. But if you want to get things happening for our city, you've got to target people that are not coming to the city. Because you've already got a captive audience when you've got the people working here. I look at the feedback from Village Well here, and they haven't spoken to the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce. They haven't spoken to the THA either. So there's two organisations that I believe that should have been spoken to. If they have, well, they're not on the list here. I cannot believe that we're going to just simply target, to try and get our city functioning, the people that we've already got on the ground. Because if you really want to get the city functioning, is we've got to be targeting those people that are stopped coming into the city. I know full well that there's 3 car parks in our city. The top 2-3 floors are empty on a regular basis and have been empty on a regular basis for 6 months. It's all because we have stopped this early bird parking and enticing people to come and shop in the city. Now, it's good to try and say, well, let's get the people out of their desk, but that is not the be-all and end-all of getting a city functioning. You know, we're trying to look at examples in all other parts of the country, but what we need to be looking at is all other parts of the country have got better public transport facilities than we have. I am a regular in Melbourne. I used to hire cars. I don't hire cars. Melbourne City's problems now are all relevant to the way they have treated those people that want to drive. There is people that want to drive into our city but have been discouraged from driving into our city. Yes, let's go down the track of getting these people out of their offices, but we're failing to try and expand ourselves outside of whatever we got in our core. And I go back to the Italian Club. There was a core group of people that used to go there every day. Now there's a bigger core of people that come from outside of the Italian Club that go there and enjoy it. That's why it's the most successful club in the country, because we've expanded ourselves outside of this little bubble. So I understand you want to get people on e-scooters, but I can't see how many people on e-scooters can be going in the city. And as Councillor Dutt has said, are we only targeting cafes? Because there are other people at retail in the city. Can someone on an e-scooter go and buy a TV at Harvey Norman and scooter at home? look, I'm sorry if I'm being thing, but the reality is that if we want people to go into retail, we want people in an expanded way, not just in a simplistic way because we've got people in the city. People in the city are going to the cafes and all that. That's great. But we also got to expand them into wanting to shop. And I think what we need to be also working with is the traders themselves. Get them activated in doing things. I have spoken for 4 years now on a shopper docket system to get people to come into this city, and I have not seen anyone take it on board. And I'm not criticising you guys, but I was told that the matter's taken on board. Is that correct, Chair? Right? Taken on board, but no one does anything about it. What, are we afraid to get people to go into car parks that have got 2 empty levels on each of them? Sorry, I think we've got to look outside the square here, please.
Would you like me to respond to any of those comments?
Respond.
Firstly, element 3, which talks about mobility and parking, does include parking discounts, which is related to the different activations. So that assumes that people are travelling in from outside the city. So whilst our core market is leveraging the people who are here already and encouraging them to get out and do more, there are also parking incentives associated with this campaign. With regard to retailers, element 2, which relates to business support, is engaging people to go in and work with our retailers around shopfront design and shop layout, and then repurposing our business grants program to help those retailers implement the outcomes of the consultations that they will have.
We'll come back, but I'll just make a comment that some years ago I was involved with an Oz industry program, I've mentioned this before, which was about a $150,000 grant, which was exactly along the lines of going in like a business support, business marketing person went in to a whole range of places, including about 180 TAB agencies at the time, and looked at the way they marketed their goods, the way their displays were set up, and their service profile. So it actually, and what you're saying in here is really valuable in terms of that going in and saying, look, this is where this is your product, but it's not in a window, or you could do this with that, and the online, because it'll be quite significant potentially. I don't know, Alderman Zuko might have a better idea than me on this, but how many of those small traders are actually not doing online or are scared of doing online because of the complexities of shipping and security and stuff like that. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to determine just what the proportion of traders, because as they said in Australia in 1994, we had then something like 500,000 small businesses in the country were going to close within a certain period of time, not because they weren't successful, but because succession plans hadn't been made, and you had an older generation at that time even running those businesses. So there's a certain time at which the business will turn over, but in terms of that business improvement aspect, I think it's really good. But I was also saying to the director before we started this meeting that when I was involved working in Brisbane City Council, the main plazas of the city were activated through bands and music and things that people came into town because of that, not just because we've got Santa Claus in there in December, but things that were going on, things that brought you into the city. And if you combine that with Alderman Zuko's public move of getting free parking in the city, your special event parking does that in one way. I'm not in any way denying the validity of the further scope, but we've got to have attractions going on in the city, and I think if you're going to spend this money, spend it and bring people who weren't in the city in the first place and aren't just workers in the city. If we can get as many more coming in, it'll make such a big difference.
Look, I just want to add to this. Does anyone shop at Eastlands? I do. Eastlands is packed just about every time I go there. It's a regional shopping centre, right? To get to Eastlands, you have to physically either bus or drive there. The only audience that you have in Eastlands are the people that work in the shops. We've got an audience here of people that work in our offices and all that, but yet we've got a regional shopping centre right across here, a 10-minute drive, that there is an abundance of people shopping there. So yes, it's a completely different shopping centre, but that's the thing. There's an attraction to go there because one thing, there's free parking. I'm not saying that we have to give people complete free parking, but if we're going to give people parking incentives, what are they going to be? Let's really be serious about giving people parking incentives. You know, this is the point I'm getting at is the reasons why places like the city of Hobart are supposedly dying is because we have discouraged people from coming here. That's what we've done. You know, I don't know if people read a lot of online comments. I do. Every time there's a parking, I'm not saying parking's the be-all, but every time an issue on parking comes, I keep on getting online and reading in the Mercury online. I don't go to the city anymore because it discourages me from going. Do you know how many times I read that? That to me is concerning. Now, look, we've got a big audience here because we've got people that actually work in offices. Eastlands doesn't. But Eastlands has got people to be able to go there and park and shop. So we've got to look at all the factors. Let's get focused in marketing with our traders, our businesses. So we work with them so they provide activity as the chair is saying. Let's have the activation going and let's entice people. Come in on Tuesday and X is going to happen and there's no parking and X. That's what we've got to be doing. Encourage them to come in. What, we're going to create traffic? Fantastic.
That is exactly what we are doing.
Well, I don't see the you know, I see that we're going to entice some scooters and we're going to entice some parking. What is it? What are we going to do? I'm sorry. I've walked the streets of our city for the last 3 months, and you're totally right. We have a safety issue, and I've spoken to our director about this. We have a serious safety issue in Wellington Court, and we've done nothing about it. It's not your fault, but we've done. We've taken away the kids' toy playground, right? I mean, did you know that? Mm. No, we've taken away all the kids' playground, but the kids' playground still remains there. And we've got youths going through there at 4 o'clock and creating havoc. I've got videos of people walking through the city with knives. But yet, you know, we know about the safety of our city, but what have we done about it? So there's a lot more to what thing. But
it's all part of a tapestry. I actually must admit.
Anyone walk through Wellington Walk lately?
I must admit, I should have reported it, but I spoke to the flower shop lady who runs the van, and she said recently she sees the youths congregate, just as Alderman Zuko's saying, and she rang 000 once recently, and it rang out. And she was saying, she showed me 3 bits of graffiti, 1 pillar nearby plus behind, and she said every day the crew goes through in the morning. She said it's been a year, and that graffiti's still not gone.
A poor lady in that lolly shop in the Wellington Arcade. I was there with 20 minutes for her. She was nearly in tears. What's going on? So is Village Well consulting with these people?
So in relation to Wellington Court, we meet regularly with the traders who are there through our community safety people, and also conduct operations in partnership with Tas Police and utilising the CCTV network. The reality of Wellington Court is there are some interventions that we can make now, and we are, but this is a big challenge. The issue of Wellington Court and its design as a place is something that we are going to have to address as a council, and that is something that officers are working on.
We can do two things quickly. Put some purple lighting in there and the appropriate music, and they won't hang around. It's a well-known factor that you do those things. Sorry? Sorry?
Case, if we're pushing them out of that space, we're just going to be moving them onto somewhere else. It's not addressing.
As long as it's outside of the city of Hobart, I don't care. It's not my problem. My responsibility is the city of Hobart. Sorry to say.
Okay, so if we've got someone who's prepared with taking on board all of those issues, and realising that it is to be an externally focused in terms of driving people in as well as the people who are living in the city. Now, if someone move the motion.
Well, I'd like further consultation with the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and the THA.
So where would you
And I'd
see-
like, well, I'm just saying that the reports we received are noted, but I'd like further consultation with the THA and the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like details on the intent of what we're proposing for the discounts on parking, because I really want to know what we're really planning, because I think we've really got to really get something happening there.
Are you comfortable, Alderman Zirko, for this to come out of session to the aldermanic group or the elected member group?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Everyone else is happy. Are you happy, Councillor Dutta? You're muted. I can't read your lips. Hello? Yeah.
Sorry, that's
all.
okay. And it's dark, so you can't read a bit too much. I'm sorry about that. What I'm saying is the sound is not very good, so I'm not able to hear the whole conversation. But it's I will go along with whatever is being recommended.
Okay.
That's the motion on the books, Mike.
Fox, yeah, the motion on it. So I think Alderman Zirko is prepared to move the motion on the books.
I said the motion, yeah, motion on the book, but
With
further consultation in regards to THA, the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like the detail of what we're proposing on the car park in the e-scooters as well.
That's been noted by the officers. I'll put that to the committee. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Or just
No, it's just noted. Just noted. All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. Item 6.2 is the cruise ships 2022-23 season. I open that item and ask for any input.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Councillor Dutta?
Thank you, Chair. Just two questions with regards to the cruise ship. What sort of fuel do they use, and do we have any say with regards to that fuel and the emission?
Take that question. Would you like to?
I can answer that to some extent. So there is a new national policy that was brought in. I'm not sure when. I think it's around about 18 months ago, and that does place some restrictions on the fuel type that is used by cruise shipping, and they are all required to adhere to that. We can certainly do some further research to give you some information on exactly what those requirements are, but all of the cruise companies are signed up to that, and in the discussions that we've heard during the cruise forums, they have all indicated that they are very keen to comply with those regulations.
Just have a question, if
Yes,
anyone can
Chair.
answer it.
Yep.
Hobart City Council really has no control on the cruising, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct, yeah, it's TAS Ports, that's correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's right, thank you.
Okay, any further comment? Having that dialogue, I mean, there's no doubt that they bring in an enormous amount to bus companies and to a whole range of people, and as you can see, there's been people being employed. The issues that have been constantly raised around the port visits are the same ones that raised in Sydney and other ports, and presumably as we move forward, these ships are becoming more, well, a lot of them were trashed, were broken up during COVID, so the newer ones presumably are a lot more environmentally sound than the previous fleet. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried, thank you. That's the, status report, please. Somebody prepared to move the item?
Move, received and noted.
You put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Right.
It's carried. I'll close the open and